Council meeting for January 16th, 2024. Can I roll call?
Mayor Truman,
Here.
Councilmember Colbert,
Here.
Councilmember Wilson,
Here.
Councilmember Bass, Councilmember Anderson,
Here.
Councilmember Gregory, here, Councilmember Kerstetter,
Here.
Councilmember Evans,
Here.
Councilmember Stam.
Here. And I'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation.
Gracious and loving God, we thank you for calling us. And thank you for giving us this great opportunity to live and to serve this wonderful community, Valley Center. Lord, we thank you for these men and women who believe in the power of prayer. As we kick off this year, brand new year 2024, Lord, we pray for oneness, togetherness, and perfect unity. Lord, be with everyone here tonight, especially our newly elected Mayor Jed Truman and all the city council members and first responders and all the administrative workers. Lord, give them your wisdom, vision, understanding, guidance, and direction as they strive for people in Valley Center. Lord, we're about to start meeting tonight. Bless all the decision-making tonight. We also pray for all the city workers working outside in this cold weather. Watch over them and keep them from any dangers. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You're fine. Approval of the agenda. As it's presented, any changes or corrections?
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second. Have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Administration agenda. Meeting of the last council meeting, January 2nd, 2024.
Motion to approve minutes of January 2nd, 2024, regular council meeting as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. No presentations or proclamations tonight, so we're moving on to the public forum. Is there anyone here from the public that'd like to address the council on any items other than what's on the agenda itself? I think I have two. Mike Miller. State your name and address, please.
Mike Miller, 650 Scott Street in Valley Center. Mayor and City Council members, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. From previous experience, I know the council cannot formally respond to items and issues brought during this time. However, there's a growing concern that all of you have heard that has an easy fix. Over the past several months that I have been attending these meetings, there have been several reports of citizens sending emails to council members and not getting any response. This is a valid concern that I have witnessed myself. I know all of you are volunteering your time to sit on the council, and balancing this 4-year commitment with your work and personal lives is challenging to say the least. However, my opinion is that when you agreed to take on this role, you agreed to take on to work with and represent current and future citizens of Valley Center. Replying to emails is an easy step toward working together and building trust within the community. I will continue to encourage citizens to participate in our city government in person and through emails, and maybe someone can check the email addresses to ensure they are set up correctly on the website to ensure the emails we send are being received by the council members.
Thank you. Stacy Grandstaff?
Hi, my name is Stacy Grandstaff. I live at 609 West 3rd. I believe that's Ward 4, if I understand the map correctly. I'm here this evening to speak to you about an ordinance that has recently come into question. I believe the question is whether it needs to be repealed and/or amended. The ordinance in question is 6.21.070, which is the confinement of dogs in heat. I want to express my steadfast support of this ordinance and its enforcement. I have owned multiple dogs, both male and female, in my 20 years as a resident of Valley Center, and consider myself a responsible and courteous dog owner. When you take a dog into your home, it is your responsibility to understand all that comes with that. In the case of having an intact female dog, you should know all that is involved when your dog comes into heat. A female cycle can be as many as 4 weeks and up to twice a year. It varies depending on breed and just your specific dog. When a female is in heat, the pheromones they produce can be detected by male dogs of any breed, including coyotes, for miles. A male's reaction can be anything from not eating to an agitation so intense that they will do anything possible to get to this female, including but not limited to digging under a fence, going over or through a fence. Personally, I once had a male boxer break through a window in a French door to get to a female that was being kept in another room, my female that was in heat. The fact that we are near a rural area, the issue of coyotes is a very real concern that should not be taken lightly. This is both a safety and a health concern, as they can be aggressive and they carry rabies. I would be willing to bet that at least some of you are familiar or active in hunting. You would know that one of the common sense to draw bucks in is doe estrus. Now, the argument has been made as to why the intact female needs to be the one confined and not the male. An intact male is intact 365 days a year. And I would like to just step back for a second and say that I am fully supportive of spaying and neutering your animals. I have 3 females that are spayed. A female dog is only in her cycle at the most 2 times a year. So which one does it make more sense to keep confined? Also, neutering a male does not guarantee that he will not react to a female in heat. It should be noted that similar ordinances are present in most of our surrounding communities, as well as many communities in this state and others. This ordinance may not be very well known or may have never been brought up before now, and maybe that is the reason the question is being asked of whether we even need this ordinance. I believe that responsible and competent dog owners is most likely the reason that they have been effective in preventing issues related to their female dog in heat. It should be common knowledge that the presence of a female can lead to extreme reactions with male dogs in the neighborhood. Now, it is not my intention to debate my personal situation for this council, as that will be handled in a different venue. However, I can tell you that this current ordinance is not being enforced, and the fallout from that lack of action is the reason I'm standing here today. I have quite literally been on both sides of this fence. I have had a female in heat. I've had male intact dogs. I understand the challenges that presents. In closing, I hope that before any action is taken in regards to this ordinance, you will consider what is best for our community and dog owners as a whole and not just one person. Thank you for your time.
Has this ordinance come before the council before, or is this something just come up, or?
It was presented at that. It was brought before the council at the January 16th. I'm sorry, December 19th. January 16th is today. I'm sorry. Yes, last month.
Okay, we didn't take any action, or?
City staff is still exploring the opportunities to potentially amend, change, or any of those things. We just had a meeting last week, Mayor, and have not had anything to present to council.
Okay.
It was brought in during the public forum as well.
Oh,
So no
okay.
action can be taken.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to appointments. We don't have any appointments tonight either. Old business. Ordinance 1401-24, special use southeast of 85th Street and Ridge Road.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Again, this is the second and final reading of ordinance 1401-24, which would approve a special use for the proposed sand pit. In the last city council meeting, you had the presentation. I presented the staff report, and then we had testimony from Mr. Phil Meyer with Baughman Company and Blaine Martin with Fremar. We have continued to look at the issues brought forward by residents, and at the start of this presentation, I will be turning time over to both Phil Meyer and Blaine Martin, who will be discussing in further detail information about the ditches and the drainage plan that were talked about during the last meeting. Again, ditches will be placed on the outside of the berms to help with water runoff. And like we had mentioned before, the drainage report, the drainage plan will be presented and approved by both Sedgwick County and the City of Valley Center. So there'll be a presentation on that, a discussion, and then also further information on the sandpit machinery itself that will be used during the course of the operation, including decibels and sound, things of that nature. So with that being said, I will turn it over to Phil and Blaine. Thank you.
Good evening, Phil Meyer with Baughman Company, agent for the applicant. With me here tonight is Blaine Martin with Fremar Corporation, subsidiary of Central Sand. I'm going to try to be brief with my comments tonight. Last meeting I was here, I was long-winded, went over a lot of different stuff. In that, I discussed several things with the council. As a reminder, so in case you want to ask any specific questions, we went over why this location in the sand is a commodity. And talking about that and why we picked this location, I would point out to council that half a mile away from this site to the west, 77th and Ridge Road, there's an existing sand operation going on there now, because that's where the location of the sand is. Went over the groundwater and the previous studies and the concerns about contamination of the groundwater, and fact that we have never had proof of contaminated groundwater from a sand pit operation in Sedgwick County that we have record of. And so I would remind you guys of that. Went over the rock crushing operation, and now that's part of a recycling process that is good for Sedgwick County, the entire community, not just Valley Center, but all of the communities around here need that facility. I went over the berm height and the landscaping, and the 6 to 8 foot berm with the native landscape grass on top of it that are 3 to 4 foot. So effectively, we're going to have a 9 to 12 foot buffer built all the way around this site to help protect the neighbors. We went over our time frame of the 2 phases that were in front of you that we're saying is approximately 15 years for each phase. And then we went over the permitting process. Not just the local process that we're going through now, but the state processes we have to go through and the federal processes we go through for permitting and annual, constant annual review and inspections of the sites. So through that, the neighbors, in my opinion, have brought up 5 items consistently. One was traffic and the traffic concerns, and I think city staff presented to you the percent of impact that the traffic increase would be to this area. Went over their concerns about water contamination, which I think we've addressed adequately for you. The noise and dust, and I do believe our berm being built around this site has a great impact on any noise that comes out of that. I think one of your own council members had been out to their existing facility at 45th and Hoover and did some measuring of the noise, and it was not showing up to be that loud as far as the decibel goes. Neighbors are concerned about their property values and what will happen with those property values. Then the last one, and one of the concerns that we hit on the most, is drainage. And with that, I've had conversations with a drainage engineer for Sedgwick County who called our office asking, hey, what's going on here? Why haven't you turned in a drainage plan? I'm getting phone calls. I'm getting concerns. In conversation with him, I'm like, yes, we will be doing a drainage plan, but we do not want to go through that cost and through that expense until we know if we have a land use to do that. So your approval is conditional. Your approval is conditional upon us getting all the permits that are necessary and all the steps are required to turn the operation into effect. That includes our state and federal permits. It includes our local requirements, and the drainage is one of those. So we would put together a drainage plan showing that we have no negative impact on the surrounding properties. And what we're actually going to do is construct this drainage to go around the outside of this property between the street that's there, the right of way, and the berm. That may require us to grant some additional easements to Sedgwick County as we build those ditches. Sometimes we can make the drainage situation out there better. I would like to think we would make it better, but our requirement is that we don't make it worse. It does not have a negative impact on surrounding properties. And so we got to go through the calculations and put the plans together of how we would build these ditches, divert this water around our site, which also protects the open groundwater. Once we take that outside contaminant out of the mixture, then that helps protect their groundwater itself. So there's a lengthy, thorough process. It's costly to go through that drainage plan. We will put together plans. Once we get a drainage plan approved and everybody agrees this is the route we want to go, then we got to do construction documents to go build that. And those construction documents will also be approved by Sedgwick County and the city of Valley Center as we go through that process. So with that, I'll answer any questions you have right now. I would like to request, maybe I just stop for a while, let the neighbors come up with their concerns, and then Blaine and I will come back up together after that's done, answer questions they have brought up, answer questions you have, and he can go over some of the specifics of how their operation runs day to day.
I think I have one question.
Yes, sir.
The 63rd Street, Hoover,
Yes, sir.
is there an easement all the way to 85th Street, or does it stop at that half mile or 3/4 mile?
It stops. It does not go all the way to 85th, and I'm going to have to, I will give you a direct answer when I come back up at the end, but I believe it stops at the half mile line.
Okay.
It may go a little past that, but I think it's the half mile.
Well,
line.
it looks like that, and when I was out there driving, it drove like that too, but, so I was just curious if the easement was already there and we just didn't have a copy of it.
Yeah, I think there's a 30-foot half-street right-of-way that is in place today that is what that drive road is constructed in. But I can look it up on Sedgwick County while.
Well, that's what I looked at too, but I thought it's only went about a half mile. So, okay, thank you.
And Mayor, if I could address that real quick. I was just looking at it today, and so it addresses the, there's a 30-foot right-of-way from 77th North to those first two properties. And then there must be an access easement or something granted, but there's not actual right-of-way past those first two. And then it picks back up to another section that is potentially right-of-way further north, but there's some things that need to be cleaned up on that side. And that was without doing any, further investigation of historical plats or those things that we can do. But just so you know, that's what GIS currently shows today is basically those first two properties, and it kind of skips a couple, and then it kind of picks back up, and then nothing.
Okay, thank you. I guess we can open up the public hearing for this item. Let's give each person who wants to talk 5 minutes, please. We've got a few more than we had last meeting, so we'll start with Deanna. Pardon me?
Could you move me to the end?
Okay. Okay, Mona Freed. State your name and address, please.
I'm Mona Friend. I live at 3901 Palos Verdes Circle. We're in the area, thank you. We're in the area west of the river, and we are in the city limits. You know, I spoke here a few meetings ago, and frankly, I can't believe that I'm back here again. I can't believe that we're all back here again, and this sand pit is one vote away from becoming reality. Honestly, I did not think this would happen. Throughout this entire process, I guess I somewhat naively believed that in the end, this council would do the right thing and vote no. But obviously, I was wrong, and here we are. You know, in a Facebook post recently, Mr. Bass shared that this was a really difficult decision for him that had caused him some sleepless nights. I appreciate his honesty in admitting that, and I believe this decision should cause him sleepless nights. I believe it should cause all of you sleepless nights that come from knowing deep down that this sand pit is wrong. It's simply wrong. There's a reason that there's never been a sand pit dropped in the middle of a residential area like this before. And there's a reason that other governing bodies that have went before you have said no to this sand pit. It's because it's simply not the right area for a sand pit. If other groups before you, if other governing bodies have said no, then my question for you is, what makes it different now? What makes you different in your willingness to say yes? Are you willing to take larger risks to reach the city's goals? Is it your willingness to make compromises that may sacrifice the quality of life of your neighbors and your constituents? The intangible costs of this sand pit outweigh by far the benefits, and a group of residents' quality of life should never be sacrificed, even if it's for a perceived greater good. I'd like to share with you something that I heard in church last weekend, and I think it's very applicable here tonight. Our pastor was sharing the numbers of all the people in our church that our church had helped in 2023. And as he did that, he reminded us that the statistics he was sharing weren't just numbers, that every number represented a story. And that's the reminder I think we need here this evening. There aren't just 100 people living in the area adjacent to the sand pit, and it's not just 300 water wells within a couple miles. Each number represents a story, a person, a family, a life, a dream, dreams even. It's simply unthinkable to me that this governing body has the power to make decisions that will be detrimental to our quality of life, to my quality of life. As I said before, this should keep you awake at night. It certainly keeps me awake. You know, it's with a lot of trust that we elect our public officials. Trust that you will act in our best interest, trust that you will not harm us. And I do not understand how you can justify your actions with this sand pit for the possibility of water rights that you may not even be able to obtain. What will your story be to us? What will you tell us if you later if you can't get those water rights? And in the meantime, we have no water for our homes because our wells are compromised. It's the water well and the noise that caused my greatest concern. And just an aside on the noise, it was interesting and a little bit priceless in the last meeting that we're being told that the decibel levels are low and it'll be okay. And then I can't remember who, but one of you complained about who's been clicking that pin for the last hour. And you have to appreciate the irony of what we're being asked to accept. And then one of you's complaining about the clicking of a pin. So in closing, I would just like to talk a little bit about the process that we've went through to get here tonight. Now, I know very little about the nuances of local government, so I can only address what I see and what I've observed in these meetings. But it's been very hard to sit in these meetings and watch our city administrator actively and almost passionately lobby for this sand pit. Throughout the process, there were times in these past meetings that those of us that opposed the sand pit, there were times we had a little bit of a glimmer of hope because one of you asked a tough question or seemed to maybe think that one of our arguments had a little bit of validity. But every time that happened, the city administrator jumped in to fervently lobby and attempt to back off any thoughts of any of you falling out of lockstep. And as I said, that's just been really hard to watch. It's almost like he's forgotten who he works for. If I may be so bold, you work for me. You work for all of us residents in Valley Center. But more importantly, he works for you. It's not the other way around. He works for you.
Excuse me, Mona, I'm going to have to cut you short. I hate to say it, but
I have one more
you
line.
run into 7 minutes, so
Can I have one more line?
thank you.
So despite the intense pressure on you for a yes vote, and I know you are under a lot of pressure, I just ask, please, please stop playing God with our lives and vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. My next person is John Friend.
Good evening, Council. John Friend, 3901 Palos Verdes Circle here in Valley Center. Appreciate all the time I know each of you have put into this issue since we started this journey back on actually the annexation on October 3rd, but the first planning committee meeting on October 25th. Very short timeframes here. So I know and Mr. Bass is not here, has told me so. He's been working some 11 and 12-hour days and put time in on here. I want to strongly encourage you to vote no on the special use permit application. And I want to rebut some of the information you're getting here, claims that all the concerns have been addressed. Before I get there, I want you to make an admonition here. Please don't rely on the permitting process to protect us residents who are affected by this sand pit. I talked to an individual fairly high up in KDHE a while back, and they said, pretty much as soon as these zoning approvals are received, these permitting is pretty much a done deal. Very rarely are permits denied on this item. So please don't, this is the real deal tonight. This is a real decision you guys are making here that affects our lives in a huge way. I don't know how many of you live around where the sand pit is, but it's a real deal. And I appreciate all the information Mr. Meyer and others are trying to squash any concerns. I want to hit on a few here that have not been addressed. Sound and noise. Appreciate Mr. Stam. You did your survey last week, and it. I appreciate that apparently 75 to 77 decimal points or decimal levels are okay. However, in our area out here, this is flat. Sound really travels. Keep in mind that the current decibel level is 0. We're starting with 0 in the neighborhood from this proposed sand pit. So what's being advocated here is it's okay. It's not my yard. It's not my neighborhood that's being affected. It's okay if somebody else now has the volume turned up in their yard, 75 or 85 decibels. I don't think if I came at, just want to ask Mr. Kerstetter, if I came to your yard and put speakers up in your yard starting at 6 a.m. in the morning, and crank the volume up to 85 decibels, how would you feel about that?
I'd already be at work.
Okay, well, what about, okay, did this on Saturdays, Sundays, this noise? Just want you to think a little bit about what's being told here, that this is okay, that this sound level is okay. We're starting from 0, okay? Traffic, 150, 200 trucks a day in and out of sight. If each truck makes one trip in and one trip out, that's 300 to 400 trips a day. Many through Valley Center, school bus routes. Appreciate all the pushback on this, but you should be giving consideration this as a public safety issue. This is a 30-year project. Many of us won't be here as the city continues to annex land. Other homes come up around here. Maybe there'll be who knows? There may be a school built out here. This is a big deal. Another consideration to consider is increased taxes on road damage in Valley Center. We were told earlier that there would only be a few potholes out on Ridge Road. Now it came out, I think, December 5th meeting that there's going to be traffic going through Valley Center. We live over on West Street and 85th. We're going to get trucks. West Street's already in horrible condition. I can't see, we're already Valley Center short of funds to maintain roads, that type of thing here. So is Central Sand and Fremar going to pay for these repairs? Sure not. That's taxpayers to do that. Groundwater risk and contamination. Some mistakenly believe this sand pit is not a Valley Center resident issue. It sure is. In your materials, before the meeting, you were given some materials on a map here and a number of wells around. I put this together based on information from the Kansas Geological Survey. I want to share with you that within the city limits of Valley Center, 1.5 mile radius of the property, there's about 100 water wells here. There's actually 4 also in the city limits of Mays. Total domestic water wells in city limits of Valley Center west of the Arkansas River, 136. So if you go to this website, kansasgeologicalsurvey.com, and look, the data's all here. You can hold your cursor over the dots, and it gives information about the well, gives information how many are domestic, and so forth. But this, are there any questions? This is in your materials. Again, relying on data from the Kansas Geological Survey. I want to make sure, I think, Ron, you had a question last week about the number of homes. It follows also, there's about 300 homes within 2 mile radius. So just wanted to hit that issue. But then this is very much exposed. Also, someone got comfort last week that since the groundwater was going to be flowing southeast, that there would be, that's all right, away from the houses. Actually, look down here. You can't see this, but if you look under your material, there's a lot of water wells down here to the southeast of the property. This isn't me. This is Kansas Geological Survey documentation. So consider that. Again, groundwater contamination is a viable risk, is a big risk. The MAPC, Sedgwick County, 2023 in June, when they rejected this project. This is the Kansas Geological Survey study that you've hopefully had a chance to read. Overall conclusion, it's a stormwater runoff containing contaminants can enter groundwater through sand pits and impact groundwater quality. 30-year project. Fremar, Central States, probably going to be, the companies are going to be changing hands over time. There's no guarantee that procedures and practices by these firms are going to guarantee there's no contamination. So please keep that in mind. Again, this is a long time period we're talking about. We're not talking about 6 months. I'm all for growth. I think I'm there with you, Mr. Kerstetter, all there on growth.
Mr. Freed, your time's about up too.
Okay, let me just finish here quickly. Water rights can be found elsewhere. Can you tell me why is the sand pit approval necessary here in order to obtain water rights? Mr. Anderson? Is this a necessary
This is
item?
not a back and forth. This is just your time to talk.
I
So
understand that, but if someone could answer that, that'd be appreciated. Last thing I want to do is raise concerns real quickly here, again, about the lobbying by the city administrator here on behalf of the applicant. You might want to take a look. I was not able to find any code of ethics for the city of Valley Center. City of Derby, you might be interested, city employees shall conduct themselves with integrity, avoid any action which expected to create an appearance of using public position, giving preferential treatment to any third community. Ditto for the city of Mays and the ditto for the city of Park City. I hope you'll put a stop to this. I'm expecting as soon as I get done here, as soon as we get down to public comment session, we'll see an aggressive lobbying by the city administrator, maybe a couple other employees on behalf of the applicant. Urge you to uphold ethical standards in this area and have operate an impartial public hearing. Thank you.
Ms. Ruth Ann Herman. State your name and address, please.
I am Ruth Ann Herman, and I reside at 8325 North Ridge Road. I bought the property using my inheritance from my mother to retire to. I moved here from Dodge City in 2010, and because the rural lifestyle appealed to me. I didn't buy my property so I could end up being a scapegoat and give up my tranquility and peace and quiet and sense of serenity. I have a sweet deal. I have the country vibe, but I'm close enough to what I consider civilization, which is Freddy's and the IMAX. So it's a perfect combination, and I appreciate the opportunity to express myself. Mrs. Friend did a wonderful job. I cannot surpass what she did, but I would just like to point out that I'm all for progress. I'm all for growth, but growth for the sake of growth is the ideology of a cancer. And I just would urge you to vote no on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Glenda Carruth.
My name is Glenda Carruth, and I live at 8321 North Ridge Road. I've lived there since 1964. My children were small at that time and went to the Valley Center schools. I've lived there and I've considered Valley Center my hometown, even though I'm not a citizen of Valley Center, and that has been made clear to me. I have fought this battle before. Your berm and your drainage plans are my most concern, although I agree with all my neighbors. Are you all aware of how, when it rains hard, the water drains down on us? Are you aware of that? I'm asking a question. When it rains hard for several days, the water behind us drains down on us, and it stands there, sometimes for days. 30 or 40 years ago, the neighbors and us had a meeting with the Sedgwick County Flood Control. A man from there told us that we could not change the natural flow of the water. In other words, we could not put a berm around our homes to protect them. If you put a berm across the street, it will act as a dam and change the natural flow of the water. That water does not naturally drain into the ditch on Ridge Road. You would change the natural flow of the water to get it to drain on Ridge. It has never drained there. Sedgwick County has put several, I'll call them culverts, because I don't think I know the real name for the culverts that the county has put underneath Ridge Road to help drain the water that stands on us into the other ditch across the road from us. If you drain that 300 plus acres into that ditch, it could run full and the water from our side could not drain into that ditch. I'm asking you to submit your drainage plans to the Sedgwick County Public Works to be reviewed. I understand it's not complete, and I do not believe that you should make any decisions until you know the full amount of what they plan to do, because you do not know it at this time. So please reconsider and take what our concerns into your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Denise Spivey.
Good evening. My name is Denise Spivey. My address is 8050 North 63rd Street West, Valley Center. Sorry, I'm not feeling too well. Voice isn't there. But I brought my vacuum cleaner from home and plugged it in the lobby in the corner. If I turn it on, it's going to make less than 85 decibels of noise. I have a decibel meter with me. Would it be okay for a sound demonstration to turn that on and see what the sand pit will expose us all to from morning until nighttime when they quit?
I don't really think that's necessary. We all kind of know what noise is, vacuums and
I'm really concerned, sir. I'm really concerned it's going to really change our quality of life. And as of the other speakers who have been up here, I've been at that address since 1993. We have water problems, we have drainage problems, we have lots of things that we put up with, and we can't even get our road graded when the snow blows and drifts our driveways clear. Our driveways shut, we can't get them cleared. So I guess what I'm trying to say is we've stayed up there because we enjoy where we live, even though it's not perfect. But adding this sand pit to the residential area is going to completely turn everything upside down. I understand that you've heard all of this before, and I'm not truly trying to make a spectacle of myself, but as it was brought up a couple of speakers ago, there was a member on the panel that was aggravated by the clicking of a pen. I've tested my vacuum cleaner at home, and it puts out 75 decibels in the same room with where I am. And that's the kind of noise. I understand the berms are going to be there, but I don't believe the quality of life is ever going to be the same or even tolerable. And then I ask you, if I don't find it tolerable, who's going to be willing to buy my property if I decide I want to try somewhere else? I just feel like you guys have, I don't believe this is a good situation, and I really do hope that you will reconsider.
thank you. Michael Miller.
Mayor and City Council members, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight regarding the soon-to-be sand pit.
Could you state your name and
Yep,
address,
I'm
please?
sorry. Jumped right in. Michael Miller, 650 Scott Street. I'm not even close to the sand pit, but I still would vote no. I stand with the residents because I understand the sound problem. I know it's not, 85 decibels is really loud, and by the time you get 500 feet away, it's much less. But to me, it's kind of like when my wife and I went boondocking and we had to take our old generator, and just that hum all day long while it was trying to keep the camper cool it was annoying. It just kind of ruined our day. But these people are going to be doing that for the next 30 years. So, but I did come up here to speak tonight regarding the soon-to-be sand pit. I know this is the last chance to vote no on this project, and I'm pretty confident that regardless of what I or anyone else in the audience has to say, your mind is already made up. I have two questions for you to ponder before you do vote yes. The first one is the water rights. That really seems to be the main driving force for at least one council member that cared enough to share his opinion on the vote. I'm assuming the other 6 voted yes, are in agreement with the water rights. So if that is the case, I urge you to vote no and get the water rights in writing before agreeing to allow the sand pit, and set a plan in place to start using those water rights sooner than later. The pit is scheduled to develop the south side first, leaving the well on the north side available to start using. I don't know if this is possible or not, but I know it's something that has not been discussed, at least here in the council meetings. Why wait around 30 years for potential water rights when we can negotiate them now before the pit goes in and start benefiting them from this decision? My second point is the proposed truck route. And Mr. Strack hasn't come up here to show it yet, but it currently shows trucks coming into town on Main from west, going to Ash or Meridian, and then turning north or south. I propose that Meridian between 5th Street and Industrial Street is not used as a recommended truck route. I propose that trucks going northbound will turn north on Ash to 5th Street. Ash is wide. It'll be an easier turn. It'll be easier for them to turn east onto 1st from Ash with a trailer than it is on Meridian. I also propose that trucks going southbound will turn south on Sheridan and proceed through the industrial area of town where the roads are once again wider and better used for heavy loads. It's easier to turn south on Meridian from industrial with a trailer than it is on Main. Now, I am by no means a professional truck driver. I, however, do pull a 5th wheel camper and dump trailer through town, and the turns proposed in the truck routes are challenging. Just today, I witnessed a semi turning south at 5th and Meridian, and there was a pickup in the turning lane trying to go west. And that pickup had to make an illegal right-hand turn to get out of the way of the semi. So I think it's just something to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary, Lee?
Gary Lee, 5335 West 81st Street, North Valley Center, Kansas. Hello, council members. I have been here the last 3 meetings. And in these previous meetings, I've spoken to you about my concerns related to groundwater contamination, the cost of extending water and sewer to proposed development, and extending water and sewer to existing homes. The financial impact to existing homes, both in loss of property value and potential resale, and the added truck traffic through Valley Center. But today, I'd like to express my opinion about how Valley Center is conducting business related to annexation west of the river. The city, in my opinion, this is all my opinion, has partnered with a developer and a mining company to island annex property that has no physical boundary with the current Valley Center boundaries. The city has essentially planted their flag in the middle of a rural residential neighborhood, told the homeowners and us constituents in the city that we don't care what you want, we don't care about your concerns, We don't care about the concerns of the homeowners, and you have to deal with it. You have to deal with our decisions. Like I said, that's my opinion. You planted your flag there. You told us to deal with your decisions. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out why the city would disregard the concerns of so many people who have called Valley Center home for as long, if not longer, than a lot of you. And the only reason I can come up with is that the city has gone into business with a sandpit company. I base this on the very well-prepared presentations in support of the sandpit by the city staff, the fact that the staff has repeatedly come to the defense of the sandpit company when questioned by those opposed, and have even brought in experts on the behalf of the sandpit company. The fact that you have mentioned a deal has been made for water rights, which appears to have been reached in private with the landowners. This is a nice sandpit. This is a nice sandpit design, but it's still in the wrong location. You've heard from a lot of us. You've heard from the people associated with the sandpit, but we haven't heard from you. There's been three previous votes in favor of this. Is it possible to hear from some of you tonight? Why you voted that way? You mentioned earlier that it's not a back and forth, but I think you owe that to us. There's a lot of people who are concerned about this. This is a big deal. Is it possible for some of you can share your reasons why you have voted in favor of this?
Council has some time to comment after we're finished here.
Okay, would you please do that tonight? Let us know why you're voting the way you do. Because as I said, sandpit, I'll agree. They've done a good job of making presentations, but it is still in the wrong location. I don't think the city of Valley Center is treating the people in this neighborhood correctly. And I urge you to vote no. Thank you.
I got Jerry Hawkins.
Hi, I'm Jerry Hawkins. I live at 401 North Fiddler's Creek Street. I live miles away from the place, and you guys have heard me speak before about this issue. Been observing, and as I watch the proceedings unveil, you start to kind of form opinions about what you think and feel the need to speak up. And so that's where I am in my heart. The first thing that I want to tell you is all of us in life would do a lot better if we treated every proposed business deal like a door-to-door salesman. When a door-to-door salesman comes to your door and offers something to you, you have some level of skepticism about what it is that they're proposing to you. That level of skepticism is important to carry forward in all aspects of your life. You need to listen carefully. You need to ask good, positive questions to find out the terms of the deal. And before you sign anything, you need to read what is being presented to you before you sign it. So I mention that because up on the screen is ordinance number 1401-24. This is the first time that I read that. How many promises were you told, no offense, by the door-to-door salesman that are in that document? Where are the berms? Where's the location of anything that he said would exist? Where's the grass? Where's the height of the berms? Where's the plan? All the ordinance says is that it will establish a mineral extraction operation on that property, period, and then gives a legal description for it. So you vote in favor of this and sign this. How are you going to enforce any of the promises that have been made over the last several meetings? So treat it like a door-to-door salesman. Don't treat every deal as the best possible thing, okay? The next thing I wanted to talk to you about is the snow. I'm an observer of nature, and I started thinking about all the snow that's been blowing across. It's a very dry snow. What do you think snow is going to do when it runs into a 6-foot berm? Is it going to stop? And if you stood on the other side of the 6-foot berm, would you not feel any wind? Well, it's not going to stop. It's going to blow over it. And the same thing's going to happen with dust from this operation. Berms, I could give you this. They're good at blocking sight lines when you're close to the berm, a 6-foot berm. If I'm standing next to it, it's going to block my sight line. If I'm standing next to the berm, it might minimize some aspects, but it's not going to stop dust. It's going to stop water. So don't pass the buck on to some other agency to determine the effects of the water and whether or not it's going to divert something on to somewhere else. Here's your opportunity to stop it now. Another thing that the berm doesn't do is it doesn't make a difference between the distance between these neighbors and the rock crusher. It doesn't matter how far the setback is, the distance is going to be the same. The dredging equipment is going to be the same. The only difference is there's going to be a berm in the middle, and you've not heard one piece of evidence in any of this that suggests that the berm is going to make any difference to the sound that's heard on the other side. You've not seen a study, you've not seen an article, you've not heard any testing done to determine whether a 6-foot berm is going to make any difference at all in the noise. Finally, I'll conclude with the points that I made in the memo that I emailed to all of you. And these are the points that I feel the most strongly about, because I think it affects me too. I think that for zoning to work, sometimes the final answer has to be no. You have to have a council in your city that has the guts to tell the door-to-door salesman no. And it's never going to be a case which isn't at least close. They always make a good pitch. They always have an explanation for something. They're never going to come up here and say, Jerry, we're going to build a sand pit right next to Jerry Hawkins's house over in Fiddler's Creek. You're never going to hear that case. So for zoning to work, you've got to say no sometimes. And when, if not now, would you ever say no? So I'm covering myself. I want a city council that will say no. If the city council won't say no, then that means I live in a city that doesn't have zoning. Because anytime somebody wants to make a change, they file the application, they go through the process, you object, you bring a crowd of people to every meeting, and it makes no difference. The applicant's promise to obey all other laws doesn't solve the problem. I'm assuming he's going to operate a law-abiding operation. Even if you assume someone's going to operate a law-abiding pig farm, or a law-abiding mineral extraction, or a law-abiding oil well, or a law-abiding wind farm, it doesn't matter what it is. That doesn't make a difference to the decision of whether or not you should approve the zoning change. Finally, there's pressure in this situation. I'm just pointing out that I believe in each and one of you because I've worked with you, Ron. I know how hard you are at working on things. I've worked with many of you others on projects for the Moving Wall Project. I've worked with people in the city, and I feel like if we've got a water rights problem and we need water, we'll find another way. You don't have to sacrifice your zoning or residents in order to get something that's for the greater good. We'll find another way.
Jerry,
The applicant's too late. So bottom line, I'm not sure I agree with some of the people here that say this is a bad location. There's sand there. You could dredge sand in this area. The real problem is that it's too late. Started years ago and we wouldn't have any of these issues. It's because the residents have moved in that has been allowed and permitted because of the zoning. They've relied on it. And now the sand pit operation wants to come in.
Thank you. Jennifer Lee.
Jennifer Lee, 5335 West 81st Street North. At the last city council meeting, Mr. Sam shared that he had taken a sound meter out to see what his equipment would find. While I applaud his industriousness and still believe in the accuracy of OSHA's data, I'm grateful that you did. Your comments made me realize that I had not effectively communicated my point in regards to the intrusive noise pollution of the sand pit rock crushing operation. It was a statement that he spoke to the people living around the open operating sand pit that they said the noise wasn't that bad. I'm sure his point was if they can live with it, so can you. Upon reflection, I realized where I had failed. I kept repeating information about the decibel levels when the actual numbers are irrelevant. What is truly important is the noise relative to the normal or baseline sound of the area. You cannot assume that all areas are the same. For the people at the Castaway development, the sound of the trucks, the dredging machine, and other construction vehicles is their normal or baseline. They don't know anything else. Our baseline or normal is completely different. The reason we hear the racetracks that are miles away is because our neighborhood is quiet, very quiet. So quiet that I've heard two people's conversation almost a quarter of a mile away, dogs barking at the kennel 2 miles away, and the pump for the irrigation equipment on the other side of the ditch, which is a 20-foot. We live in an area that does not have a lot of traffic noise. It was one of the factors in deciding to purchase our property. Even if OSHA's data is incorrect and the noise of the machinery is lower, a sand pit rock crushing operation does not belong in a residential neighborhood. A city employee cited the decibel level of a lawnmower. It is reasonable and not too annoying for a lawnmower to run for 3 or 4 hours. However, no one, yourselves included, would want to listen to it 10 hours a day, all week long, and on Saturdays. That's when it becomes noise pollution, and that's what you're asking us to live with. Your disregard to our concerns has been deeply offensive, and while you may not see this as personal, we take it personally. You have shown by your actions that my and my husband's 24 years of designing and building our forever home, planting over 300 trees, investing our time and labor to improve our home and property means nothing to you. And while the city of Valley Center has reaped increased tax revenue from our property as a result of our labors, you see nothing wrong in erasing our years of investment. You as a city council, the city staff, the property owners, and the sandpit company will not have to bear this burden. Yet you are telling us that to bear it and live in fear. Fear that our water will be contaminated, fear that we will not have access to clean water for years and we'll have to figure out our own solutions, fear that our air will be polluted and our houses damaged by blowing sand, fear that our 24-year investment will be devaluated, fear that the quality of life we have will be no more. While research, data, and opinions have been presented, there is one irrefutable fact in this issue. Once the sand pit is started, the damage cannot be undone. You can't go back. You can't take it back. At the last meeting, I shared some hard truths that you might not have liked but needed to hear. Please do some soul searching. Please admit to yourselves that if our situation and positions were reversed and you were told that a threat to your health, safety, and way of life would be put in your neighborhood, you would defend your health, safety, and way of life exactly as we are. And then this is to the property owners, wherever you might be. Stop. Just stop. I can only guess at your motivation for continuing this after all the negative consequences that your community will have to endure. But it makes me think you need to do some soul searching as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Penny Simpson.
My name's Penny Simpson. I live at 8355 North Ridge. My neighbors and I are opposed to this special use and have been. We haven't wavered in our opinions, and we have provided you with documentations and validated our concerns. Everything that we've presented to you has been met with skepticism and disregard, as if it's meaningless. And what the applicants have presented has been taken as gospel. We are secondary in your opinions, and that needs to change. And I ask that you truly ask yourself these questions. Have I considered the potential impacts of this special use request on the residents of the immediate area and our community? Ask yourself that question. Have I reviewed all of the information presented so that my decision is well informed? Do the needs of the applicant outweigh the detrimental effects of this special use on the surrounding area? Each of you alone must answer these questions for yourselves. Each of you will bear the burden of this decision, good or bad. If you cannot answer yes wholeheartedly to all these questions, then your vote should be against this request. An ill-made decision is going to yield ill results. The residents of this area impacted have voiced their opposition and done everything they can, from research to speaking to making phone calls, sending emails, reaching out to everybody that we can think of for help, for opinions, for facts that we could pass on to you to prove to you that our concerns are valid. They mean something. Can you, each of you, say that your level of involvement and effort has come even close to this? As we've sat back and watched each of you and your reactions, and we've seen facial expressions, eye rolling, and rather disrespectful behavior from several of the members. I would hope that these city officials would have more respect for their office than this. Please ask yourself these questions. And if those questions cannot all be answered with a yes, then you need to pass this by. You need to say no. You need to stop this until you know in your heart that this is the right decision and that it's a good decision. And I don't think any of you can answer all of those questions with a yes. So please, do the right thing. Please do some self-examination and make sure this is what is the right thing to do, because we can't take it back. Once this is done, it's done. The damage will be done. My life will be impacted. All of the people who live within 1,000 feet, all 74, I believe you said last week, will be impacted. Their families will be impacted. The people within a mile, within 2 miles, will be impacted. There's a lot of people out there. And we deserve the same respect as anyone else. Even though I'm a resident of the county, I have no say in the city government. I consider myself a resident of Valley Center, and I'd like to keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Jacqueline?
Hello, my name is Jacqueline Villarreal, and I live on 7756 North Ridge Road. The old schoolhouse. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. My house is right in the corner. We bought that 4 years ago because it was what we were looking for. We added rooms so it could fit our family. I already talked to a real estate. whatever we put up for sale on that house, we won't be able to find anything. My kids love their new home. They have pets, they have chickens, they have a four-wheeler, they're up and down. That might not be much to you guys, but it is for my family. And I don't want to move out of there. If the sand pit stays there, I'm pretty sure you guys are going to make the road bigger. My house is right on the corner. Are you guys going to take down my house to make the road bigger? Semis need time to get the speed for the traffic. There's semis sometimes driving by. I could feel the vibration in the ground inside my house. Imagine 100 plus 50 trucks per day. What is that going to do to my house that my husband and I dreamed of for 10 years? There's neighbors there for more than 20, 30 years. Ever since I moved to Kansas when I was 16, everybody would be, oh, Valley Center is a great place to live, great people. I finally lived in Valley Center. Now I'm having second thoughts about it because of the sand pit. We bought this house because we were able to afford it. We won't be able to afford another house that is exactly the same with the prices being so high. That's just something that's not going to happen. I just hope you guys consider my neighbors' concerns on all they have mentioned that could not benefit us. This is the first time I talk. I'm sorry, I'm not a good talking in public. I don't like it. But this is the first time because I consider maybe you guys should think about it more on this sand paint. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
Good evening. My name's Chris Mackelgan. I've been before you before on these issues. My office address is 301 North Main. I represent many of the folks that have come before you this evening. I don't have much to tell you. I was checking off my list, and Mona and John and the others, and my brother Jerry here, I was just checking off my list. I think you've heard everything. And I can talk about the law, but again, my brother Arbuckle here is going to advise you. You're not going to listen to me about the law at this stage. What you need to listen to are the folks that talked tonight. Their heartfelt presentations, because it takes a lot of courage. And after that, I don't know why anybody would want to put any type of operation, given the heartfelt expressions of these folks. But the one thing we do know about the law is that the one consideration is you have to consider the character of the surrounding property. And if we step back, that is the reason why this operation was not approved before, was not approved at the county level. And we can talk about decibel levels, we could talk about EPA requirements, we can talk about permitting, we can talk about dust and whether or not there's a risk of COPD. But at this stage, that's largely irrelevant. When we're talking about the character of the surrounding neighborhood, these people are concerned about the quality of life. Quality of life. So the generation of sound may meet minimum levels of decibels under OSHA regulations. That doesn't mean their quality of life isn't negatively impacted. And maybe there won't be a chance of asthma or COPD or cancer because of the nature or extent of the particulates in the air. But that's not the question. What's the character of the neighborhood? It's going to affect their quality of life. It's going to affect their quality of life. So we can pick apart all the regulations and what did folks at different agencies or municipalities or county governments have told us. I think what you got to consider, what have they told you? They are concerned about their quality of life, because what you're asked to do and what you've been asked to do for the last 90 days since this thing kicked off with the annexation is to approve something that is fundamentally contrary, fundamentally at odds with the character of the existing neighborhood. Fundamentally, this isn't like we're putting in a bar or something like this. This is as far and removed from the existing use, established use of the surrounding property. So we know that you have that problem with quality of life. You have inconsistent use. Another issue is, how does this encourage economic development in your area, in this area? It doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't increase your tax base. It doesn't. The development, you don't have a current comprehensive plan. But setting that aside, if the information that was provided to the Board of County Commissioners is accurate, and I think it was, this area has been marked, or at least earmarked and identified as residential development. And I keep on bringing my friend's words that he used in front of the Board of County Commissioners. This is the bread and butter. The sandpit operation is inconsistent with economic residential development in that area. And how we got here today kind of proves it. You had to reach out and grab this property under an island annexation, which is a rarity. You had to consciously go out and get it and approve it. And at that point, everyone knew that this was going to ultimately be a sandpit operation. You had to rezone it from residential to ag. And now you have to go the extra step of getting a special use permit, which again is another level that just shows you it's inconsistent with the character and nature of the property. And it's not consistent with residential development. It's not going to provide anything in your tax base. There's not enough employees. There just isn't anything out there that enhances residential development. And your goal is maybe 30 years from now, there's going to be a pot at the end of the rainbow. And what is it? Water rights. And these folks have no idea what that means. They have no idea of the discussions that have taken place. And I'm not saying they're improper, but they weren't privy to those discussions. What our Mayor Emeritus described as negotiations. But I ask you, is that that's the only thing you have? That's the only reason to do this. I don't see any other reason to do this. But we're told that, well, there's no guarantees that we'll get any water rights. There may not be water there. There may not be sufficient water there in 30 years. But if there's no guarantees, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And if there is a guarantee, that needs to be disclosed and discussed. And that's the one thing the law does require. So you can't have, you're kind of in a quandary here. If there's no guarantees and if there's no contingent that says you're going to get water rights in 30 years if you approve this special use permit, then it's a myth. And there's no basis for you to make a decision that impacts the quiet use and enjoyment and quality of life of all these folks who are, I'm so proud of them, and I know how hard they worked. I know how hard they worked and how hard it is for them to make this presentation. So I leave you with a final request at this stage that this is just viscerally, your gut's gotta tell you, this is not a good idea. And if you want to take the mindset that we sometimes do, that I know better than you, relax. I got this taken care of. I know better than you. Then I hope you can rest easy, because as Mr. Hawkins said, door-to-door salesman. But as Penny told you, there's no 3-day cooling off period. Once you approve this, you lose control. You lose control, and you should be the body that's there to protect these folks and protect their quality of life. You took an oath for that. And I think that if you think about that, there's only one good decision, is to not approve the special use permit. These gentlemen will go someplace else that's not residential in character and find an operation. There's no doubt about that. So I appreciate the chance talking to you. I've enjoyed every moment that I've been in front of you all. I wish you good luck, and I hope you make the right decision tonight and in this consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Deanna.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, city staff. My name is Dina Bushell. I live at 8020 North 63rd Street West, Valley Center. I've been here before, and I've told you I'll be here till the bitter end. And whether that bitter end is tonight or whether it's standing in front of a judge waiting for him to tell me that I have no other recourse, because I'm not done. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm not done. I'm here in one last desperate attempt to convince you this special request does not need to be granted. I'm probably going to go over the time limit, and I have several items to touch on. I promise to keep it as brief as possible. Mr. Meyer stood up here and said that storm or sand pits have never caused stormwater contamination of the aquifer. I beg to differ. I gave you a printout tonight. And in that printout, I'm going to summarize two things. In the introduction, I have highlighted the following statement, and I quote, "Many sand and gravel pits have been excavated for construction materials in and around Wichita and south central Kansas," in figure 1 of your flyer. "The water table in the alluvial aquifer in the area is so shallow that the sand pits permanently fill with water. A concern is that the water-filled sand pits provide an opening to the aquifer such that stormwater runoff and any contaminants it contains could directly enter the groundwater." Okay? Now, I brought this to your attention because I had a discussion with Councilmember Bass, okay? And that's why I'm doing this tonight. In the summary and conclusions, the following statements, and I quote, "The overall concentration distributions of pesticides and synthetic organics other than pesticides indicate the surface water in the sand pits flows into the groundwater in the direction of the groundwater flow at the study sites. The general pattern in iron, manganese, and ammonium ion concentrations in the down gradient well waters relative to the up gradient well and pit waters also supports this." Okay, we've heard that. Thus, stormwater runoff containing contaminants enters groundwater through the sand pits and impacts groundwater quality. Excuse me. Although the evidence shows no human health threat for the use of sand pits for stormwater runoff, the potential for a threat to the aquifer does exist if high contaminant concentration occurred in the runoff. Okay? High contaminant concentration diesel fuel. Diesel fuel oil can contaminate 1 million gallons. 1 quart can contaminate 1 million gallons of water. You can look it up. I would happy to discuss these, but I promised I would try to keep this short. Our neighborhood and many residents in the Valley Center city limits have opposed this from the start. Many statutes have been quoted throughout this process, from the Island Annexation, KSA 12-520C, which should have taken into account the proposed use or reason for the island annexation. The courts upheld the statute in Cedar Creek Properties Incorporated versus the Board of Johnson County Commissioners. In our case, that question was rejected outright by the county commission and the city. But apparently the water rights outweigh our rights. Our petition to the Planning Commission against the special use request was rejected out of hand. The persuasive petition should have been taken into account as there were signatures from over 50% of the surrounding properties, not just names, but area in that 1,000 feet. Over 50% of the people that I got signatures from, those are the ones I could contact. Sorry. KSA 12-757 should have allowed our persuasive petition to force a supermajority. Every statute regarding zoning, annexations, etc., has one statement in common. This act is enabling legislation for the enactment of planning and zoning laws and regulations by cities and counties for the protection of the health, the public health, safety, and welfare of the citizens. The Metropolitan Area Planning Commission, which performed a much more comprehensive study than the City of Valley Center staff, recommended denial of this request for the following reasons. And again, I will paraphrase. I'm pulling from the minutes of the meeting. Properties surrounding the subject site are all zoned rural residential, except for the lot on the southwest corner of North Ridge Road and West 85th Street, which is zoned general commercial. Surrounding property owners rely on water wells for supplies, or I'm sorry, on wells for water supplies. If approved, the applicant would have to obtain any required permits dealing with groundwater from the Groundwater Management District. We've heard this and I agree with that. Extent to which the removal of the restrictions will detrimentally affect the property. By allowing this special use permit, during excavation and rock crushing, there will be additional noise, truck traffic, and blowing dust when compared to the residential development. The operation could also have negative visual impacts on the surrounding properties. When excavation is completed, the resulting lake could be seen as an enhancement, as water features are generally viewed as positive additions to residential dwellings. However, the possible visual enhancement must be weighed against the possibility of permitting contaminants into the groundwater, which is a source of drinking water for nearby residents. Relative gain to the public health, safety, and welfare as compared to the loss in value for the hardship imposed upon the applicant. If the application is approved, it may have detrimental effects on public health through the ability for contaminants to enter through the sand pit into the groundwater used as a source for the drinking water for nearby residents. It also may have negative impacts on the welfare of the surrounding residential properties during the time of the excavation and rock crushing due to noise, light pollution, blowing dust, and increased truck traffic on North Ridge Road. These possible negative impacts must be weighed against the possible gain or loss of to the applicant. If the application is approved, the recommended conditions of approval are designed to help mitigate possible impacts, and they had a whole lot more than what they're proposing here. If the application is denied, it would be presumably represent economic loss to the applicant. And I understand that. They're going to have to go find somewhere else. They're going to have to start over. That's not on me. They made this decision to parachute this into my neighborhood. Neighborhood, people. That's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about 20 miles out in the county with no surrounding homes. We're talking about a neighborhood with in excess of 100 homes. Okay? Impact of the proposed development on community facilities. The proposed use will induce an increase in large commercial truck traffic on North Ridge Road, which will likely increase maintenance requirements based on the average daily traffic count of over 4,000 vehicles per day on North Ridge Road. Sedgwick County Public Works recommends the construction of an auxiliary lane, which will likely take the form of an extended deceleration lane. They've already discussed that with you. Sedgwick County recommended it. That's why they said they would do it.
And I'm going to have to ask you to wrap this up.
I'm going to in
Thank you.
about a half a minute. In conclusion, you have seen our petitions. I would like to know the status of the petition I submitted on December 4th and what you're going to do about it. You all have received emails from 109 residents and people in the city of Valley Center, okay? 109. Not just me, not just my neighbors, 109 people that have told you we don't want this, okay? I urge you to take to heart everything that we have said here and everything that we have presented over this time. And I do want to, one last thing, I want to thank Commissioner Stam, Commissioner Evans, Commissioner Bass, and Commissioner Wilson for responding to my emails. Mr. Colbert, Ms. Gregory, Mr. Kerstetter, and Mr. Anderson, I recommend you check your emails. It's time you start communicating with the people that are communicating with you, because we all want to know what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all the people we have for the public hearing, so I will close the public hearing and I will open up comments from the council.
Sure.
Councilman Kistler?
So I have a question for Mr. Schrack. You're kind of probably need to come up to the podium. Regarding the ordinance and how it's read and versus their plans and how we're going to keep them to what they said they will do with the respects of the berms and.
Right. So as was provided in the staff report, the site plan that was generated by Baughman and also answers to the questions that are posed, that is all part of what you see as case number SU-2023-01. So that is referenced in that case.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That actually, you answered that faster than I thought you would. I would like to hear, Phil's your first name. Yeah, Phil's your first name. I don't remember your last name. Meyer, thank you.
Phil Meyer with Baughman Company. Do you have a specific question, or is this my opportunity for the rebuttal I requested?
Go ahead and do that, and I'll probably might have a question unless you answer it.
All right. We can do that. And I'm going to stop I'm going to start by answering the question the mayor asked first time I was up here. That 63rd Street Road is built for a half a mile, goes to the half mile line. The right of way actually stops 3 properties short of that half mile line, but the road's still built and probably some legal rights for access and easement. But it serves all of those properties and allows them access back down to 77th Street. So I know Blaine is here tonight to explain to you any specific questions that you have about his day-to-day operation. I know I've got 2 minutes to do this rebuttal, so I'm going to leave a lot out, throw some suggestions to you that you can expand further with me through questions if you desire. Neighbors did a great job presenting stuff to you, probably the best job they've done. This is our 7th public hearing on this project. 2 at Planning Commission, 5 at City Council, very heartfelt comments from the neighbors. They did a good job tonight. It's the fear of the unknown that has them concerned and why they're presenting their concerns to you. They are concerned about change, which is standard. It's human nature. But I also felt, in my opinion, they're using scare tactics to you, the council members, as to why you can't and shouldn't approve this. And you have followed a process. You have followed a legal process that your city staff has guided you through. You got a planner here that's done his report and presented stuff to you. You got a manager that's following it up with factual information. You got a city attorney that's watching the process. Everything we're presenting to you is following a logical process that we go through. We will deal with the drainage problems, and as council members, you have to rely on your hired consultants to do their job. And your city engineer and the county engineer is going to check that drainage plan and make sure it's done correctly. Should not ask my client to prepare that in advance of your approval. You should approve it subject to meet this condition. The noise and dust. So here, and I'm thinking back through this, and I don't think I've heard this yet. Out of these 7 hearings, what I haven't heard from these neighbors that tell you how loud this is going to be and how annoying this operation is how much that existing sand plant a half a mile down the road is affecting their noise level at their home today. So within a half a mile of their house, there's a sand plant running today. And I haven't heard them complain about that specific noise. You take our project, you put a 12-foot, you put a 8-foot berm up there with native grasses on top of it that help kick that up. You put the 300-foot buffer that we have from the edge of the water to the berm. We've knocked down, the decibel levels are going to be very low in this operation. The water contamination, I'll try to answer any questions you have on that specifically. Mrs. Burchell did a great presentation to you. What she's pointing out to you is the stormwater runoff running directly into a sand pit. That's why we're diverting the water around this sand pit. It's not going to run directly into the sand pit. So we won't have that contamination. So with that, if you have other questions about property values and traffic, I'll take those. And if you have questions about the day-to-day operation, Blaine will jump up here and tackle those.
Go over down there.
Ben?
I had a question about the day-to-day running of the equipment. What equipment is running daily? And pardon me, the rock crushing activity was brought up last meeting. I wanted to clarify how often that's run and for how long, and also what your daily equipment that's running.
Okay. So daily equipment's going to really consist of a wheel loader. So there's your main form of loading trucks. Obviously, you have your trucks for in and out. And then, so we're going to be, aside from the crushing, you got the wheel loader, you got the excavator that may be loading the top material. That's the only thing. Then, of course, you have your dredge, the sand extractor in the pictures. So that's going to be your daily operation. Now, the 6 to 8 weeks a year where the crusher is involved, you have the crusher, which needs 2 excavators to run it, as well as the loader. That'll be your standard 7 to 5.
And that's, you said for 6 to 8 weeks a year?
Right. And not consecutive in that.
Thank you.
Kissinger? Kissinger? I'll get these right.
Eventually, right? So regarding the noise pollution, we talked about it last week, I know. It's at the rock crusher is 1 decibel level you have to meet, or you can't, and then, but it's the 100 or 300 feet away from it.
Within 100 foot,
Well,
any of our machines,
within 100 feet of any of your machines.
any machine out there.
Okay.
It's a hearing problem, not a equipment problem.
Okay.
It's strictly for
So no matter what machine you have out there, and what is it, 80 or 85?
85.
Then that's per your mining OSHA? MSHA, thank you. Okay. So next question, I'm going to piggyback off of Mr. Anderson. Your hours of operation, I know we've talked about it. Monday through Friday, and then Saturdays are shorter, right?
Correct.
Tell me what the hours are again. I don't have that in front of me.
So 7 to 5 is your standard operating hours. The gates will open at 6, just so traffic continues to flow in, never stopping on the road, safety concern. And then too dark, it depends on this time of the year. We're honestly done by a little before 5. And then in the summertime, it'll go 5:30 on a normal day.
Okay.
And yeah, Saturdays till noon. And that's only springtime. Like right now, we're not open.
Okay. And holidays, normal holidays off?
Yeah, normal holidays.
Okay.
are off.
This next question is going to be for Mr. Meyer. Or actually maybe both of you, what's your next steps? Because I know you got to go to KDHE. And then the water, I forget that one, the water,
DWR, it's DWR and then GMD
is it?
as well.
Okay.
Yep.
And so assuming this is approved tonight, you're not doing anything until those three agencies approve.
Correct. And then the drainage plan, of course.
Well, we're not even there yet. So yeah. So
Okay, yeah.
you have to go through those three agencies while you're waiting on approval from those guys. You'll be getting your drainage plan taken care of. Correct?
Yes. Yeah, if council approves this tonight, we're going to start the state permitting process. That is going to be for the sand operation, permit for the reclamation of the sand pit, and permit for the rock crusher.
That's two different permits?
Yes, there's 3 different state permits we have to do. With that, our office is going to start a survey because we got to go survey this and surrounding areas so that we can do that drainage plan, and then we'll be doing all that simultaneously.
Okay. Have you looked into my request as far as the checking the drinkability of the water that's currently there? Last meeting, I requested that you look into what the water that's currently there, and I don't know if you can actually tap into those with permission, those big sprinklers, but to see if the water's even drinkable right now.
I'm going to have to apologize to you. I did not check on the existing condition of that well that is there.
Because there's two right now, and I'll be honest with you, I don't even know if you can actually tap into that without the whole heads going. So anyway, that's all I got for right now.
I apologize for that oversight.
Yeah.
On your drainage study, how far out from the property will the study? Will you go out a little bit to catch what's coming from other directions?
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to have to. First, we got to figure out the amount of water that runs to this property. And right now it flows across the property because the ditches don't work. And so we're going to get specific survey information on the road right away and the ditches and our property. And then we're going to use the existing aerials from Sedgwick County to analyze how many acres are draining to each portion of the right of way. So we can determine the size of the ditch constructed for diversion.
Yeah, I piggyback off for Mr. Stam. With respect to the west side of the road on Ridge, will your drainage study alleviate any of that, or will it not even worry about that?
No, we will have to analyze that too.
Okay.
We'll have to make sure that pipes that are coming, and they brought up a great point, the pipes.
Yeah, because I
Pipes
drive
under the road now that's feeding water from the west to the east.
I
and that's-
drive that periodic, well, actually a lot to go to the west side of town, West Wichita, and big rain events like Miss Thank you, Caruth. I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names. Miss Caruth said that it's really bad when you have a really bad storm or multiple days in a row. So you have your a lot of work to do on that drainage study.
We had our work cut out. I'm not gonna, no, it's a serious issue and we will take the plan seriously.
Yeah.
I can guarantee the county will take the plan seriously.
Oh, none.
Anyone else?
Sir Clark,
Pardon me?
do you have?
Anything from staff? Well, move on to the approval of the ordinance 140124 for special use.
against this.
Oh, I'm sorry. You did ask that. I'm sorry. Barry?
Mayor and council and homeowners, I would address that issue. My calculations are, and I haven't checked this with council or verified to see if they want to verify my count, but I count that the homeowners came up about 178,000 square feet short of the 20% requirement. And that's about 4 acres. I assume that I have everything that was submitted to the city clerk. And again, in those calculations, I show that they're 178,000 short of having 20% of the total land that had to be notified in this. And that indicates, if that's correct, that this issue would be decided by a simple majority of the council. In this case, 5 out of 8, since Clint's not here tonight, but that would be the vote that would require this to be passed. It wouldn't require a supermajority. So I hope that answers your question. I don't know if you have
I disagree. We have
28%. Well, I'd have to.
I can get you my spreadsheet and my calculations. I don't have them with me here tonight. But based on what I did, I took.
What I would prefer is to deal with council on this issue. I don't feel I should be talking with lay people. I think I should deal with their council if that's going to become an issue. But I'm telling you, my calculation shows they're about 178,000 square feet short of what I was given as the protest petitions. And I don't know that we can resolve that tonight between myself and Mr. McGinn, but if that's what the council wants me to do, we can do that.
So we'll have a vote tonight. If it comes back as a supermajority, regardless of this discussion is basically a moot point, correct?
Right.
If it comes back that it's a simple majority and then you find out that your calculation is incorrect, then we'd have to have another reading, correct?
You'd have to have
Okay.
3/4 vote or 6 out of 8.
So, but regardless, if your calculation's wrong, we would have to come back again and address this a third time, correct?
No, if my calculation is correct, you could vote tonight.
Incorrect.
Oh, if it's incorrect, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Questions, comments? I get a motion?
Based on approval granted by the Planning and Zoning Board, I move to adopt ordinance 1401-24, special use for property located southeast of 85th Street and Ridge Road for the second reading.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the ordinance, the second reading. Any further discussion?
I want to say
Okay.
something. I will address the audience tonight that it has been a difficult decision. I have gone back and forth. I've heard good points. I've heard bad points. I've heard that no matter what happens, you're going to be unhappy if there's a sand pit. I've heard that we need to pay attention to our zoning ordinances. I've heard that we need to consider the future of Valley Center in our water rights. Yeah. I have a strong belief that a person, an owner of the land, can do what he or she wants to do with the land as long as it's not illegal. I know, Jerry, that's not what your memo said. And that gave me pause for a lot of thought. But I have to do what I think is best.
I'm sitting here. You're not. Thank you so much for your input and for following this. I wish we could make everybody happy, but we can't. Thank you.
Any more comment? Have a motion and a second. So all in favor of this motion, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We're -1, 5-1. All right.
6-1.
6-1, excuse me. Gotta get my math down. So, I would like to just take like a 5-minute break right now. Just, is that okay with everybody? We turn at
Need
8:55.
recess.
Recess.
Move to recess for 5
sorry.
minutes.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to recess. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Same sign. Motion carried. Do we?
No.
Okay. I move to reconvene the meeting.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to reconvene the meeting. Any further discussion? All in favor, raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Moving on to new business, approval of the Harvest Place final plat.
Good evening once again. Yes, before you this evening is final approval for the final plat of Harvest Place. Again, this property is between the high school and the middle school, between 93rd, and on the south side is where the new Aquatic and Rec Center is being constructed even as we speak. So again, this has been reviewed and approved by the Planning and Zoning Board. There have been a few changes, but again, we are recommending approval, final approval of it tonight. For those of you not familiar with the final platting process, once council does grant approval and vote to approve this, then the necessary signatures will be collected and this will be filed with the Register of Deeds office. The creation of Harvest Place does create roughly 204 new residential lots and 6 commercial lots. As you'll recall earlier in 2023, we did go through the rezoning process for this, and so it partially is zoned commercial. That area is mainly running along the east side of Meridian, south of 93rd. And then towards the middle, there will be, at this point, the developer is looking at single-family homes, and then farther to the east, a series of duplexes. And then I would also mention that this plat is unique in the fact that the city did reach out to the school district to go through a naming contest for some of the streets in the subdivision itself. So the middle school contributed towards the name of Spirit Court, the high school, Stinger Avenue. Abilene Elementary contributed towards Sunflower Valley and Sunflower Court. There are 2 of them. Wheatland was Hornet Lane and Hornet Courts, the intermediate school, Chance Avenue, and West Elementary contributed to the name itself of Harvest Place. So again, it was fun to have the school district involved through the naming process of the subdivision and some of the streets that will lie therein. Again, we recommend approval. Stand to answer any questions that council may have at this time regarding this final plat.
Okay, sir.
Regarding Block F, can you go up to the map, Barry? I don't know, whatever one I'm looking at.
I don't know why. how you can
Block
read-
F
Block
is in the
I can't
south.
read nothing on those.
That one right there.
Yes.
So it's the south, the lower right.
Southwest,
corner.
yeah, the
But
southwest
that's the southwest corner. So that's where the aquatic.
So currently, yeah, so everything in Block F is part of the city property. As you can see, that is going to be platted out into 3 lots and then a reserve area.
Okay, so this current plat, and if I'm using the wrong terminology, I apologize. But the way it's currently set up does not affect anything going in that block. However, if needed, that it could be could it be modified if because we're not going to need the full 30 acres, right?
Correct. So what's happening now, Barry, can you go to the first page of my staff report? I think that'll help do a comparison. That's okay.
Trying to open a different program to turn it.
Yeah, so what you see, so
That's a better-
to answer Councilor Kerstedter's question, so right now what you see there are 2 lots right now. Prior to this final plat being approved, you have 2 lots. So the smaller square, that's the city-owned property. That's where the Aquatic and Rec Center is being built right now. They're in that southwest corner, more of that area. What you see in the plat as part of Block F is the creation of 3 lots in a reserve area. So the legal description will change. Currently, it's a meets and bounds description. So,
Okay.
the east 150 feet of whatever, blah, blah, blah. That'll switch to Block F, lots 1, 2, and 3, and then reserve, give me just a second, reserve H. And so what the Aquatic and Rec Center will now, its legal description will be Block F, Lot 2.
Okay.
The lot to the north of that would be Block F, Lot 1. To the east of that is Reserve H, and then to the east of that is Block F, Lot 3.
Okay, so when we sell whatever we don't use, then that's already taken care of.
Correct, yeah. So we are creating, like I said, we're creating 3 lots, one of which, of course, we're going to retain because the city is going to own the Aquatic and Rec Center.
Right.
The other 2 lots in the reserve area that is up for discussion with the council on how we want to proceed on developing that area,
Okay.
whether that's selling it into private ownership or a public-private partnership. don't know at this time, but obviously that's a discussion that we can have in the future.
Thank you.
And also too, Councilmember Kurtzetter. So if you recall, when we, passed the sales tax, so that sales tax lot basically, will fund that southern, that southwest lot will be sales tax funded. And then the remainder of it will be replenished with, either general fund or, however we come up with the exact acreage. And so that's what we're waiting for, was really to plat it together with a developer versus us expending those funds ourselves. And so we ended up not having to pay for it. So one of those great things with public-private partnerships sometimes, to where that panned out nicely for us. So just to let you know that that's coming to fruition that we discussed early on in the process.
Councilman Anderson?
Mr. Schreck, the zoning on this does not lock them in on what is single family versus multifamily. It's
Correct. So-
mixed use.
So
or
all of
mul-
the area that's R2, which is everything to the east of the commercial. So it being under R2 does allow for either single family homes or duplexes.
Okay, but you said what the current owner's plans are is what areas for single
So the
family?
developer at this point, so you've got commercial, if you're looking at this, yeah, Barry, that area is commercial. And then as you move towards the east, the developer has indicated that that area towards the middle will be single family homes, and then duplexes farther to the east, potentially running along the floodway.
Okay.
So again, we have not received that exact configuration of what single family homes or duplexes will look like at this time. But again, that would be reviewed by city staff through the submission of building permits.
And those open areas, kind of in between, like in the backyards there, yeah. Are
So those areas were the ponds that we've
Drainage,
discussed in
okay.
the past, yeah, to alleviate drainage farther on the west side of Meridian, as well as move stormwater throughout the development itself. Those reserve areas, yes, are where the ponds will be dug.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion? Got a motion to approve?
Mayor.
Oh, excuse me. I looked down there, Ron.
He slipped in.
I'm just sitting here quiet tonight. But I do have a question on block 9. You said that's what, how many acres is that?
Sorry, block, which block?
Is it 9?
So the
So
blocks,
small, I can't
the
read
blocks
it.
are labeled via letters, so there would not be a block 9.
Maybe G.
I don't know, but it's down in this corner here.
That one right there? Yeah, so again. So Councilmember Colbert, that what he was referencing was block F. Barry, can you highlight that again?
I pulled up the different copies.
Okay, great. Very good. There we go. Yeah, so if you can scroll down. So Councilmember Colbert, block F is that area south of Northwind in between Emporia and Meridian. And so Barry, if you go one more page, it'll actually have the lots included as well. Actually, 2 more pages, I'm sorry. There we go. Oh.
We're back.
Back just a little bit. There we go. So what you see, so again, it is the area west of Emporia and south of Northwind. That is block F. That creates 3 lots and a reserve area. With block F, again, block F lot 2 in the southwest corner. That is the lot that the Aquatic and Rec Center is being built on now. The other 2 lots, as City Administrator Clark had mentioned, again, if we look to sell those in the future, we can sell those because now there are 2 other lots as well as the reserve area that now encompass just 1 lot.
Okay, then block F would be big enough to put in some commercial, or not commercial. but
Yes,
things.
block F is zone commercial, C2. Yes, all 3 lots.
So we could put a new city hall in here, new fire department.
If City Council so grants the funds to do so, again, that would be an option. But again, yes, so all of Block F is Zone C2, as well as the lots that run along Meridian on the east side of Meridian, north of Northwind, those are Zone C2 as well. So again, C2 is our general business district. So a lot of the commercial that you see, so for example, the strip mall, Sonic, as you go farther south on Meridian, that area is Zone C2 and is permitted for many commercial uses.
Well, the only reason I'm asking that, maybe some people think it's a joke, but they're trying to get this in Corinth. So we take the building forward, inward.
Okay, all right.
Another
Motion to approve, wait. Am I on the right page?
The final plat for harvest. Yeah, that's.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah, sorry. I was shuffling through my papers so much. Motion to approve the Planning and Zoning Board staff recommends motion to approve the final plat for Harvest
Second.
Place.
Have a motion and a second to approve the Harvest Place final plat. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Moving on to the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Moving on to staff reports.
I will be brief. Just wanted to remind everyone, I know you've received the invitation from Chris Strunk, but again, the annual meeting for Main Street Valley Center will be held next Thursday. It's not this Thursday, but the following, January 25th at 6 p.m. at La Venue. Again, we are very appreciative of all of the support that City Council has given Main Street Valley Center over the course of its existence. And the annual meeting is an opportunity where we invite the community to come and learn more about our organization. So we'll talk about some of our accomplishments of 2023, our goals for 2024, and it's just a great opportunity for the community to come together to celebrate the work that we're doing to further revitalize our historic downtown. So hope to see you there. Thank you.
Director Owings.
Evening, Mayor and members of council. If you haven't noticed, our dirt work has started and have been substantially completed out at our second Ford Street site welcome sign. The work out there got started, I think it was just after the previous council meeting. So right before all the rains and the snows hit, so giving them a little bit of chance to get settled in there. We're really excited about that. We're working with our contractor, George Lay Sign. They've got the main portion of the sign. It'll look, if any of you don't know, it's going to look just like the other sign, generally speaking. The landscape may be slightly different, but the same sign structure will be out there, lighting and so on. But we're working with them on the details of getting them in here and working with their mason, and having the foundation set will be the next step, and then the mason there afterwards to get the rigid portion of the sign, and then the black part, the main part of the sign is already complete. They've been hanging on to that for a little while because we were in a waiting game with Evergy for a while. So we're very excited to see things moving forward in that regard. Other than that, stand for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Newman. Ron? See, Ron's not here. On vacation. Shear? Yeah. Arbuckle? Okay, looks like Mr. Smith is on. Nothing there, huh? We couldn't have anything. The city administrator, he surely doesn't have anything today, does he?
But wait, there's more.
But wait, I don't know how many, if all of you get the newsletter from the Kansas League of Municipalities. I do want to just point out that there is a COMA for elected officials. That's the Open Meetings Act. There's a webinar from 10 to 11:30 on Thursday, February 8th. We've got some new people, we've got some old people, and it's always good to refresh on the regulations for open meetings and open records. So take that into consideration. I can enroll you or you can enroll yourselves. So just wanted to point that out.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. A few quick things. Did want to touch base since Rodney's not here this evening. So as you've noticed, Meridian is underway. All the tree removals are completed. And so what you see now, I mean, that is the full extent of the tree removal process. There wasn't any work today, of course, with the weather. And then Wednesday, there'll be some potholing for gas lines tomorrow. And then crews will start removing sections of the sidewalk this week on the west side in preparation of the water line installation. And so the water line is going in. During the tree removal process, the contractor did determine that due to safety, because of the way that the traffic was moving, that we are going to end up closing and doing the one-way during the water line replacement. And that is 100% due to safety. They thought they were going to be able to do it without having to one-way it, but just with the way traffic flowed and what have you. So that is going to start. You'll actually, you're going to see a signs going up tomorrow to let people know. And then we'll also post that on our social media platforms. We'll send out alerts through our app as well. And so that will start on Monday. And so next Monday is when TCS will set the one-way traffic control devices. And so it'll be one way going north. And so from Main Street to 5th, it'll be one way going north. And then the detour will be set up. Now the detour will be posted going down Seneca, actually. And so from 85th to 77th, Seneca will be the designated detour route because that is with KDOT's recommendation. Of course, they have to take into consideration truck traffic and all those things when they come up with a detour route. Of course, us locals, we'll find a little quicker way than that. Of course, I mean, we don't expect, all the locals to drive all the way out to Seneca Street by my house. And so, locals will use Ash, Park, Emporia, Abilene, basically every road around it. We'll find a way. So did want to let you know that that's going to change. I do want to let you know right away. Found that out today, actually. So you'll start seeing that information going out tomorrow. Questions?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
You're communicating with the school district as far as
Yes.
the buses and all that stuff? Because I don't expect them to have to use Seneca to go from.
No, absolutely. No. Bus drivers, most of them are locals too. They'll find a way.
And then encourage them to communicate with other schools that come here for activities.
Oh, that's a great point. Yep.
That way, because although most of the schools are on the north side of 5th Street, so if they're coming from the south.
They usually go to 85th or 5th.
Right.
Yep. Good point, though. Especially when they come to get food, Big Larry's or Sonic or those places. So, any other questions on Meridian? All right. And then next Wednesday is a special day. Mark your calendars.
Mayor, can I interrupt real quick?
Robert Wilson's birthday. So happy early birthday.
Nice try. I tried to cut. I knew I couldn't cut him off.
You almost got him. You
I
almost
tried.
got him. If you'd have flipped your button, you'd have got him. They got me looking at this now, not down the way. Okay, moving on to governing body reports. I don't have anything. I guess I should make a comment about the decision we made on the sand pit tonight. I lived out there. We moved out there in 1990 or 1965, I believe, and there were only 5 houses out there. And I remember my dad fussing about all the neighbors moving in. So things change, things happen. There's a sand pit within a mile of all those people, and I was on the township when that opened up, and I attended some of those meetings. I don't remember seeing any of those people at any of those meetings. So I don't really, I think the council made a good decision tonight. We've got 7,000 people to look out for. We've got to look into the future. And that's hard for anybody to do. 30 years from now, somebody will be sitting here saying, well, hindsight's 2020. We screwed up or we did good, one way or the other. But this council took the bull by the horns basically and made a tough decision. I'm glad it was not a split vote. So I just want to appreciate this council. And I know we're going to hear some slack. It's not over with yet, but we do need to keep our eyes and our ears on the developers of that land to make sure they stick to what they do and maybe even go above for the residents around that area. So that's the only comments I've got. Stram?
I have nothing.
Evans?
I have nothing.
Bass is not here. Anderson?
I have nothing.
Gregory?
Sedgwick County Association of Cities meeting was postponed from last Saturday. It will be happening this coming Saturday. So if you couldn't make it because of the weather, your excuse is accepted. Please try this week. And come to the Main Street Valley Center reception next week also.
Your sitter?
Yeah, one comment on replying to emails. I know I'm terrible at it, but that doesn't mean I'm not reading your emails. I occasionally will reply and something I can work on, yes, but I do read the emails. So just because you don't get a reply back from us doesn't mean we're not reading them. Thank you.
Wilson?
You know, I want to thank everyone that came out this evening for this process and has been here for weeks throughout this since October. And it truly means a lot for us to have that interaction with the people that we serve. And as many have already said on here, and Mayor, you said it perfectly, is we have to look at the future. The future involves over 7,000 people in this city. And that decision today was truly made on that. I don't have one particular reason why. There's a lot of reasons why I voted the way I voted. It has to do with growth. It has to do with economy. It has to do with income. It has to do with everything, water rights. It also has to do with a quality of living, a quality of life that we have in this town. And this town must grow in order to improve that. And unfortunately, to their dismay, yes, the country living may go away. I also grew up in the country, and my dad also said the same thing when people started moving in around our 5-acre lots. Why are all these people coming to move out around us? Change, it just happens. Growth happens. I grew up in Andover. Andover grew extremely quickly after the tornado. That town is not the same town it was 30 years ago when I lived there, but it's growth, and that town is better for it. This town will be better for it, for the growth that we are giving it today. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Colbert?
Yeah, the only comment I got is I have to agree with Councilman Wilson. We make decisions daily. Some people don't like us because it goes against what they do. But at the same time, I think we have to take a look at the bigger picture and see where the city of Valley Center is going. And with that, the only thing I got left, legislative news, you will have a package from me at the next meeting because they start the 1st of February and they got some stuff in there we need to know about. Basically, I'll have them outlined it for you. And I hope to have that package by the end of the month so I can get it to the clerk to include it in the package. But if there's no other business before the council, I make a motion the meeting be adjourned.
Second.
Stamp, Matt.
I got one thing to say first.
Okay.
On the sand pit, it was brought up that Brent works for us. We've tasked him to help the city grow. That's what his job is whether it's developers, anything, that's his job. I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you. I have a motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I hear a second?
Absolutely, a second.
Several.
I have a motion.
We can stay another 10 minutes. Or half an hour.
Second to adjourn the meeting. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Meeting adjourned.